Good evening. Good evening. My name is Brittany, and I am the founder of Pure. And I am here tonight just doing a little introduction of who I am. And over the next few weeks, I will be doing a series on different topics. And I'll also be uncovering a series I call 0 to 20. I'll tell you a little bit of what that is all about. But I am here for moms. I'm here for moms. I'm here for single parents. I'm here for wives. I'm here for families, and just want to empower you and encourage you in your daily walk. I am a believer in God, and just want to encourage you as well in your daily faith walk, as well as your daily walk with your family. I've got my little one here, and just gonna be here to encourage you. So, as I said, my name is Brittany, and at the age of 18, I found myself a single parent. I was not raised that way by any means, but just through a series of decisions that I made, and being rebellious and going against the grain, as I would call it, and trying to figure out things on my own. I really just exposed myself to a whole world that I was not ready for, and so became pregnant at the age of 18. And not long after, the same year actually that I graduated high school, I had my daughter. And so then we embarked on this just journey of, oh my gosh, what in the world? I first and foremost, I was a kid. I was still a kid trying to figure out life, and I had no sense of direction. I had no sense of purpose. I had no sense of if I was going to college or if I wasn't. Like, I had nothing. And so imagine then trying to raise a baby. As a single parent, I had no clue. And so thankfully, I was raised by a mom, single mom who was a believer, and she did get married. When I was maybe, I think about maybe like 10 or 11, she got married and was married for about 10 years, 9 or 10 years. And so, very thankful that I had her. But the majority of my childhood, I was raised by a single parent. And so I didn't have really, I could say, maybe any point of reference. My grandparents were married for 50 plus years, and so they were a great example to look up to. But other than that, I really had no real point of reference for knowing, okay, what is a family supposed to be? What should life look like? What should I be, seeking and pursuing? Yes, people can say it to you all day long, but until it really clicks, until it really gets in your head, and really gets into your heart, you really can just be kind of like out there aimless. And so there I was, 18, and just trying to figure it all out. And had my daughter, and I ended up living in low-income housing, and that was a whole new experience for me. Ended up being on like Medicaid, WIC, and food stamps, and that was a whole new experience for me. Had many situations where I literally would get maybe like a quarter raise, and my benefits were like gone. And it was like, are you serious? Like, a quarter is not, really doing anything, for our home, and really taking us over the poverty line. And so I just entered into kind of like that world of seeing the struggles of those who are in poverty, of single parents. I was just really able to see firsthand kind of the struggles, trying to seek assistance for like utility bills and you name it, just needing help. And so I found myself in that place, and hit my head quite a few more times in making decisions, wrong decisions, and trying to seek. Of course, I wanted a family. I wanted my family, and I had no clue. I was just clueless. I was just absolutely clueless. And I thank God for the things that were instilled in me from a little girl. I thank God for the foundation that I had. I thank God for the support and the people that I had, because I had a point of reference, and I had been shown in many ways how to see God. And so I was very thankful for that, because as a little girl with a little girl trying to figure out life, I really needed help. And sometimes it was nothing that nobody could say, or nothing that anyone could do. It was just that I had to get in my own closet with God and figure it out. And so that's where I found myself. And so to skip over and through these different episodes, I will definitely kind of go into, probably more of the details will come up of just my time as a single parent. And I was engaged, and that fell apart, just making all kinds of just crazy, wrong, dumb decisions, calling myself trying to figure it out, and was just clueless, just no sense of direction. And I know that so many people find themselves there at that place, and you don't want to be. But in life, you're just like, okay, how in the world did I get here, and where do I go from here? When you just don't even have any sense of direction to know where is up from here, where is out from here. And so I remember one year I was raised in the church, and the church that I was raised in, I was born in the church and went there for 18 years before I just decided, okay, hey, look, now I'm 18, I'm getting ready to have a child, and if I didn't feel like I was getting what I needed as a young girl, as a young woman, and so I was like, okay, if I'm not getting what I need, I can't say that I feel that my child's gonna get what they need. And so, so I made the decision to leave that ministry, and reached out to the pastor and all of that, because of course that was all I had ever known. And then not long, I don't remember exactly when, but not long after I left, I had a very simple prayer, and I was just like, God, I'm not used to church hopping. Like, I've been in the same church all my life for 18 years. I don't know what church hopping is. I visited a few places, but there were just so many options. And I was just like, God, you're going to have to put me somewhere and like set me there, because I don't want to be all over the place trying to figure it out. And so I did visit a few places, and I was invited to go to a church one New Year's. I think it was New Year's 2006. So I had my daughter in 2004, graduated high school 2004, and then 2006 New Year's, I was invited to a church, and I went. And here we are, about almost 18 years later. 18 years later, and that's where I am. And it didn't go as smooth as that. It definitely did not go as smooth as that. Initially, I think I so-called visited for about like 2 years, and they were like, okay, no, honey, you're a member. But just had my moments of, okay, rebellion, still trying to figure it out, wanting to be accepted, wanting to be validated, wanting to be loved. And I was searching. I was searching and seeking something, and didn't know what I was searching for, but I knew I was searching really, really heavily, for fulfillment, for acceptance. And so I ended up going to that church. And once I finally decided to settle down, calm down, and really pursue God, I know I was at a place of deep pain, deep hurt, And I really almost kind of just got like tunnel vision. I like closed everything else off. I shut everything else off in my life. And I was just like, I went into church, I listened to the word, and I was a beeline out the door. Me and my daughter. And I was really in like protective mode. And so to kind of fast forward that a little bit, years later, I ended up being approached by a young lady, and we were meant to be accountability partners. She approached me about being accountable, being an accountability partner for her. And so we connected and we were accountability partners. And she was a single mom as well, had a little boy. And so that was huge. That was huge. Had lots of growth and just witness on both ends. We saw so many things happen with God, with each other. We just saw God move in so many ways. I know we both matured and grew in so many ways. And I say all that to say that as we grow and as we mature and as we develop, like, it is so key and it's so important. And I pray to God nobody has to learn it the hard way, but I know that many people do. But it's so key and it's so important to know your friendships, know your connections, know your relationships, to try them, to test them, and to know and have a personal relationship with God so that you can know when it is that you need to do what you need to do. So okay, hey, do this, yes. Do that, no. You know whether to move forward or to step back. And so I think to an extent, like, the relationship just got very heavily dependent. Yes, we were seeking God, all of that, but there were some open doors. And so my discernment was there, my maturity wasn't there. And there was just an open door. And so that relationship ended up years later falling apart, as many would say. But through that, we had started helping other single parents and really had a passion for how we could support. We saw the gaps in resources. We saw the gaps in services. We saw the gaps in needs. And so we really had a passion and desire for helping those single parents. And so as our friendship evolved and changed and she relocated, it got to the point to where we couldn't give it that focus anymore. And I still had the passion, and desire for it, and she just couldn't give it the focus. And so I just sought God for, okay, hey, what's the next thing? Because I still have this passion, this desire. And I remember it was our pastor at the time. I was approached about seeking God for a new name. And so I sought God for a new name, and that new name was Pure. And so out of it, Pure came. And really what resonated with me was that God would take me through a process of purifying. He would take me through a process of purity. And that would be naturally, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, that he would take me through this process. And of course, I knew that it was a source of restoration and help for other people. But what he was showing me was that I had to be first partaker of it. And so that was very uncomfortable at times, especially when you start going through situations to where you're like, okay, why am I going through this? God, is this something that I did? Lord, please take it away. When you just feel like, okay, hey, you're hitting test after test or trial after trial, and you're like, you don't understand it. It doesn't make sense. You feel like you're being punished. And God's just like, no, it's a setup for my glory. No, it's building you, it's molding you, it's maturing you. It's a setup for what I want to do now and what I am doing next, not only in you but through you. And so, so I had to learn that. I had to learn that through the years, and to speed that up, my daughter I've had so many, oh my gosh, just so many like faith moments through the years. And again, I said, like, these will definitely come up. I'm sure other stories, things I can't get into this whole moment in time, but other things will come up later in the other episodes that I will definitely share. But tonight I'm just hitting a few highlights of just how God has absolutely brought me through as a single mom, being a single mom for 17 plus years. My heart's desire was that I was like, God, I don't want to have any more children until I'm married. I didn't even know if me having any more children was possible. So I really was kind of like content with just my daughter. Not saying I really was content, but I had just made up in my mind, like, God, I'm okay. Like, I either like I want all or nothing, and I want it to be kept. I asked God to keep me, and not saying I didn't make mistakes along the way and errors and all of that, but I absolutely asked to be kept. And so just to see God's hand, and to kind of skip way forward, and then I'll go back. But to see God's hand and to see that now today, here our oldest daughter will be 20 this month, and to now see that I've got married in the last couple of years and had a baby this year, and have purchased homes and relocated and stayed rooted in ministry, and have matured and developed and grown and allowed God to mold and shape me and process me. That 18-year-old girl that did not have a clue what was going on in life or where up was. I had no clue. I could not figure it out. I couldn't figure it out. My emotions were so jacked up. To, just rewind to that. I was always raised, as many would probably say, sheltered. But my mom was a single parent. My dad wasn't in my life. I met him when I was younger, but then we didn't stay in touch. And then I reconnected with him when I was 15, and met his family for the first time when I was 15. But I was an only child, only grandchild. And so my uncle and my grandfather were it for me. Like, when I'm saying they were it for me, like, they were it. I looked up to them so much, primarily my grandfather, because he was always closer and, spent more time with him. My uncle lived away at that time, but my uncle was always there for the big moments, the birthdays and the proms and special occasions, and just for any reason, in the holidays, and just making sure that there was like no need. Like, if it wasn't covered and grandparents didn't cover it, more than likely uncle was helping cover it. And not just those things, but just being present and just holding and keeping their word. So growing up, I didn't know what it was to not have a word not kept. If they told me they were going to do something, I didn't know when, I didn't know how, I didn't know where, but I had been taught and learned that, okay, if they told me they were going to do something, they were going to do it. And so that's how I was raised. So when I got out into this world, dating and meeting people, and people didn't have that standard, I couldn't believe it. Like, it may seem hard to believe it, but I literally could not believe it. Like, it was very hard for me to comprehend that someone would lie for no reason. It was very hard for me to comprehend that someone would tell me that they were coming and never show up. Like because all I had ever known was men keeping their promises, men holding their word, and if they couldn't hold their word, they were apologizing, for not doing it, and then they were backing that up with the next action. And so it was very hard for me, as I got older and started dating and just meeting different type of people. And so the relationship with my daughter's father was was top notch hard, very hard, because then you talking about I'm coming and you never show up, and then you say I'm coming and you never show up, and then you say I'm coming and you never show up. I just could not comprehend how, what is that? And so that has absolutely helped me through the years to dive deeper. I am a person of desiring understanding, like help me understand. And I've also learned through the years that we can make that like an idol. That, okay, that understanding piece, that we hold that above faith, we hold that. And so I had to kill that, and just weigh my heart that I wasn't putting understanding above my faith in God, but I'm absolutely a person of understanding and just wanting to know, okay, what's the deeper root issue, and why do people do the things that they do? Why do I do the things that I do? What makes us tick? And if there's an issue or there's a problem, I want to get to the bottom of it to find the solution and bring the solution. And so I experienced a whole nother world, raising my daughter and dealing with men, and just couldn't comprehend. And so I know that for so long I was hurt, I was broken, I was bitter, insecure, jealous, angry, mad, all of that. It was very deep rooted for so long, because things had just been, it's one thing for somebody to do something to you once or twice. It's something when you've had that thing done repeated, like over and over, like that just like chips away at your confidence, your just a sense of security, a sense of value and being and knowing who you are. And so I went through all of that, and experience, being lied to and cheated on and all these things, and just really had to come back to, like, not even back to, but had to learn, okay, hey, who am I? What do I believe? And who is this God that I've been serving all my life? Like that relationship had to become real for me. And so I found myself there, many times, of course, after the heartbreak, after the hurt, the heartbreak, then those are usually the painful moments, are usually the ones when you're like, okay, God, what do you say? And of course, I've learned through the years, he wants more than that. He works through those moments, absolutely. But God wants more than that. He doesn't want it to get to a place to where it has to be painful in order for us to seek him. He's like, okay, seek him all the time. Seek him continually. Seek that constant relationship. And so through the years, I have transition. My daughter grew up, and I experienced literally going from renting, low-income housing, renting, and then I desired to own a home. My mom had never owned, so I desired to own a home, so my daughter could see that. I was blessed and able to purchase, so I purchased a home, had a decent, good job, and was commuting, and then things hit and came to a peak, and I had to really reflect and sit back and say, okay, what am I doing? What am I doing in life? And at this point, I think my daughter was maybe in elementary or middle school. And I just wanted a better quality of life. I was making good money. I was commuting. I was in school. I had a house. I had cars. But I was just like, there's got to be more to life than this. And I wanted a better quality of life. And so with that, after a series of events, I ended up approaching my job at that time for a raise, and they denied me. And so they denied me for it. And in my mind, I'm like, okay, I know I'm doing the work. This was the job of 3 people before I got here. I know I'm doing the work. I see the volume. I see the output. I see the numbers. And so I didn't get hard. I didn't get bitter. I didn't get nasty. I went to God. I'm like, okay, God, help me with the plan. And so I said, help me with the plan. And he gave me the plan. He gave me the plan to transition out. And what I ended up finding was I asked for a certain dollar amount in the raise, and what was denied, he showed me that I actually had it in equity in my home. And so I had the equity in my home. And so I said, okay, hey, I'm going to devise this plan, put my house up for sale, do all the things to prepare to shift and move. And so I prepared to sell everything in my home, not everything, but most everything in my home, 3 levels, fully furnished, finished basement. I mean, everything was just fully furnished. And I'm like, why do I have this much stuff? Why? It was just myself and my daughter. And so I downsized. I got rid of all the excess. Took a long time, but I got rid of all the excess. I sold. I ended up buying a new car that got me better gas mileage because I was commuting. And as soon as my house sold, I put in my 2 weeks notice and I came back into town. And so I spent that summer with my daughter, and it was just refreshing. That was the first summer that I had actually ever had with her. Just she and I, just spending time, just waking up in the morning. I paid off debts, and so I was just able to literally wake up in the morning during the summer and say, what do you want to do today? And we would go. And so that was a great time of just rest and reflection. And I ended up purchasing another home that fall, and I know I will share in future of just the different testimonies through the years of how I've purchased different homes and how I've had a desire for different things and how God has given me the desires of my heart in the homes that I've had. And so fast forward through all of that to kind of get to today. I ended up working a job temporarily, and not temporarily, but I didn't know how long I was going to be there, but I heard God kept saying, you won't be here long. And so I ended up working a job once I had got back, once the summer was over. I started a new job in town, and it, I won't say it was hell, but it wasn't peaches and cream. It was not heaven at all by any means. And it was just hard. It was constant warfare every single day. And I went into that job in a higher position and just faced, I was the only person of color in there for a while, and just faced so many different conflicts. And I correct that. There was another person of color, but there was a period where that person then was not there. And it was just me. And there were different locations. And so sometimes I was at a location where I was the only person of color. And it wasn't even that, but it was just, like I said, the constant warfare. And it wasn't everyone, but it was majority of everyone. And it was just nitpicking on things, telling me wrong things so that I would get things wrong so that then there would be an issue or an error with management. And I'm like, okay, hold on. Like, it was just so many things, snide remarks. It was just so many things. And so I found myself in a position, and initially I didn't understand it. And this will help somebody. Initially I did not understand it, but as that pain and that constant like nagging kept happening, I found myself in the place where I would literally just face the wall, and I would seek God, and I would close my eyes, and I'd be like, okay, God, what are you doing? What are you doing through this? Not my will, but your will be done. And through the years, I thank God for relationship and for the relationship that I've had with him, because through the years, I've found so many moments like that when I've been like on jobs or in positions, and I've found myself in positions where I've been at jobs, and I'm sure many other people have. I've heard quite a few other people have said this. I've found myself where I'm literally just feel kind of like at my end, but I know that he's like, okay, you got a little bit more to go. And so I would find myself where I was literally like crying out to him on the job, on my lunch break, bathroom break, 15-minute break, like, okay, and then get it together and get back out there and get to work. And I would just be seeking him, and I would be fasting, and I would just be continuously just going in like, okay, God, like, what are you doing through this? What are you doing through me? Like, just literally like laying my life down. Like, I know nothing, you know everything, help me. And so I just found myself at that place, and it was amazing because through that time and that moment, I had so many opportunities, and I won't say I did everything perfect now. I will not say that. And it by any means, I had some moments where I snapped back and I had to correct and adjust and get myself together. But through that, I had where I consistently was like, God, okay, I'm trying to do this right. God, I want to see you. God, help me. And one of the people who later came and admitted like and apologized to me for how they had been treating me, I just felt led like, no, we're not gonna be nasty back. We're not gonna be nasty back. We're not gonna have I'm not holding any grudge. I'm letting it go. Yes, you've been real nasty, but I'm letting it go. And I'm gonna pray for you. And that person actually came to me at one point on the job with tears in their eyes and said, I don't see, like, after all I've done to you, I don't see how in the world, like, you're here praying for me. Like, you're here encouraging me. You're here, speaking well of me. and I've done all that. And so I know it was nothing and no one but God. But through that job, he processed me to the fullest. And one day I was on my lunch break, and it was one of those probably hard days again. And I drove near my home, and I pulled up, but I didn't end up getting out, and I just drove back. And where I lived, it was like in a subdivision in a lake. It was in a subdivision in a lake. And so I just drove back out, and there were no sidewalks. It was very hilly. This was like December, so it was cold. And I noticed a young girl that was walking up the hill, and she was holding a baby. And so it's cold outside. And so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna stay there, see if she needs a ride. And so as she got closer, I could see that she was actually had tears in her eyes. And so she got closer, and mind you, from 2009 on, even before then, I had kind of been working with single moms, single parents, and just really keeping an ear out, volunteering with different organizations and things like that. And so, so she gets closer, and I realize that she's crying. And so I ask her, if she needs a ride, and she gets in, and she tells me that she was kicked out from where her boyfriend lived. And so she tells me where she needs to go and that she was planning on walking. And I'm like, no, I know that area, excuse me. I know that area where she was planning to walk, there were it was a really busy area. And she didn't need to walk there. And so I ended up giving her a ride. And before she left, and I looked up kind of places and gave her some information for places she could call. And before I left her, I asked her if I could pray with her. And when she got out of the car, I just remember that I sat back and I had like tears in my eyes. And I was like, God, this is what it's about. Like, it's not about petty stuff. It's not about numbers. It's not about the dollars. Like, it's not about all that stuff we make it about. Like, this is what it's about. And the very next day, I was let go from the job. The very next day. And when I tell you, like, I didn't see that coming, I didn't know it was coming. Like, I had been told I had infractions, and I was like, okay, I had never been presented with these infractions. I'm like, okay, so how do I know I have an infraction if I've not been told I have? Like, it was just that kind of stuff going on. And but I had such a peace. I had such a peace. And because God had you better stick with God. Not for the things, but for relationship. But because I had relationship with God, he had already been telling me, you won't be here long. No, he did not give me a day. He didn't give me an hour, but he kept telling like, you will not be here long. And so I was there for a little over a year, almost a year and a half, but I had already cleared out like my personal belongings. So I literally did not have anything, and that was over time. So I literally did not have, anything major. And so when it was time to go, they were like, do you have personal belongings here? No, I do not. Everyone have a good Christmas. Take care. Thank you for everything. Bye-bye. It was that type of send off. And I remember getting in the car and I pulled off and I began to like a little tear, how a little tear want to try to come. And I stopped and I'm just like, no, like the enemy gets no glory from this. None at all. None at all. And I was just like, okay, God, what's next? What we doing? And I just remember having the confession of God, like, I want to be where you want me to be, doing what you want me to do. Like, that was my confession. I want to be where you want me to be, doing what you want me to do. And I repeated that so many times. I don't even know how many times, but I repeated that so many times. God, I want to be where you want me to be, doing what you want me to do. And I would have people that would, try to hook me up with a connection or give me a job. And they're like, oh, you can get good money. And, oh, this has good benefits. And none of that was like, I was not at peace with any of that. I just kept saying, God, I want to be where you want me to be, doing what you want me to do. And from that, 1 week later, can we say 1 week later? Literally 1 week later, I went to this community event at an organization that I had helped plan with a previous kind of community coworker, and but because of the job and the restrictions and all the things that were going on, they were telling me I couldn't go. And so, but because I had been let go, I could go. And so I ended up going to the event, and I said, you know what? Okay, hey, I'm not working, and I'm sorry, I don't know what this is doing, but I was like, okay, I'm not working, but I could still go out and support. And I'm thankful to God that through the years, like every time that I have not worked or had a job, that was kind of the mindset. Now, I have had periods of time where it was, I maybe got into a slump or got a little depressed, but for the most part, anytime I've not worked or I've been laid off or I've not had a job, I've gone into like, what can I do? How can I serve? How can I help? And I've just plugged in the community, plugged in church, and I know that has just brought me through so many times that could have been a lot tougher. And so 1 week later, I ended up going to this community event, and the gentleman that I had prepared to plan that event with, he went ahead and held it, and so it was a great community event, all these organizations there. And so I don't even know at what point, but he introduces me to this gentleman that's standing in this door, and I'm sitting here like, okay, it's a good connection. We have a good connection. We're having a good conversation. You could just feel the spark. You could just it was on fire. We was talking about the community and just the different needs. And the gentleman asked, do you have a resume? And I'm like, yes, I have a resume. He's like, can you send me your resume? And so I end up sending him my resume. And he's like, can you come in for an interview? And so I didn't even remember or know what the position was for. I went in for an interview and in front of like a panel of people. And I had this notebook that I had created through the years where I collected like organizations and different resources. And so it was really kind of like my go-to when people would call me and say, hey, our family car broke down, where can I go? Who can I call? Or they would say, hey, my power is out. I need help. What can I do? And so I had this notebook I had collected through the years of resources for the area, for the region. And so I took my notebook with me. Didn't know what it was about, but I'm just like, hey, this is a nonprofit. This might help. And I brought my notebook and literally pitched, they shared what they desired, and I kind of pitched to them as well what I did and what I saw, and they gave me the green light to create what I had the passion to see happen in our community. And so what I saw from the age of 18, being a single mom, and even on, was I saw the gaps. I saw the gaps in the resources in our community. I saw where agencies, where the communication wasn't there, the partnerships weren't there. I saw where you would call for, help and not get an answer or not get a call back. I saw where, okay, you would be needing help with the disconnect notice and you'd be offered $25. And sometimes, yes, that's just what agencies have. But to know that, okay, hey, someone's out there genuinely trying, it's so discouraging just to get a flat no. And so I went in with the mindset of, okay, hey, we're going to answer the phone and we're going to return calls. So we answered every call and returned every call that was missed. And so I love that that's still in place today. And this is going on 6 years later, and I'm no longer there. But that is still in place today, that literally they return calls and they pick up calls, and they're one of the lead agencies that's known for doing that, because it gives people hope. It gives people hope just to know, okay, I can call this place and get a person, even if they can't help me, but they can give me some answers. And so so that was one big piece. Just created a community resource center that was basically like a hub that not only people they could come, they could call, they could go to for resources, whatever the need was. That was my heart. Okay, whatever the need is, anything A to Z, you can call us. Even if we don't do it, you can call us. And if we don't know how, or have the resources for it, we can look it up. And we can give you the information. That's the least that we can do. And so that's what that program was created on. We started out with a $3,000 a year budget, giving out $25 for disconnects. But we got to the place to where we were working to say, okay, hey, this agency has $50, this agency has $25, this agency has $75. We're going to put it together and stop this disconnect. And that just blew up in a good way. But that just, I know that did so much for the partnerships, that did so much for the community to see that happening. And so to this day, that program is still giving financial assistance. And when I left, they had, I don't know if I'll reveal the number, but I would say they were easily helping maybe 300 plus, if not more, families a year the last time, and have given thousands of dollars. I don't even know the total number, but easily giving thousands of dollars. And I think last year they gave well over between maybe 40 to 50,000 just in financial assistance alone from that one program. Whereas, remember, we started a budget with $3,000. And so just to see God blow that up, and so much more is done through that program, just being kind of like an advocate and partnering with agencies, being a place that people can come and sit, helping people. We've had people come in that literally like are in wheelchairs, power out for months. You know, they don't know how to navigate or where to even start. But just being that advocate. So to see God take me from being a little 18-year-old girl with no sense of direction, a single, the child of a single mom, and then a single parent myself, being 18 with no sense of direction, to taking that whole situation and being able to use it to the glory of God. Being able to encourage so many single moms that I've come into contact with, so many families that I've come into contact with, so many people that are hurting, being able to just encourage them and be a light, and help people, even just to, if we even have nothing else in common, but just to help you keep pushing, to help you to keep going. It has been so rewarding to see that happen in my lifetime. And I'm just thankful to God. And so to fast forward today, I know we're already but I'm telling y'all my life, almost my life story. But to fast forward to today, this month, our daughter will be 20. Our youngest will be 8 months old. 2 years ago, I got married. And just to see the redeeming and restoring power of God, that he's kept us, he's protected us, he's covered us. To see me go from working a job to now being able to be home with my son, and having now, actually at this point, having surpassed what I made when I was working in person full time, and I'm surpassing that at home with my son. That's something I've never, ever experienced. I experienced my mom working 2 and 3 jobs, tired, us on the go, going through drive-through because we had to do it and get there. Like, I being at church till 2 and 3 in the morning, sleeping on the pews, on the chairs, on the floor, like. So to have just the peace of mind and the blessing, and all of that was a blessing too. That was because I was out, she was sowing seeds and I was sowing it too. And those seeds have come back as harvest in my life that have rooted and grounded me. And so I'm so thankful for that. But just to know that literally our daughter's in college, like she's doing good, she's blessed, she's covered, she's taken care of, she's growing, we helping her through that. But to know that like she's good, to know that our son is good, and I'm able to be home with him, I'm just, I would have never imagined myself in this place or in this stage. My husband, to know that I literally met him when my daughter was 2 years old, and we didn't date until she was probably maybe like 8 or 9. We didn't start dating until she was maybe almost 9 years old. But to look back through time and to realize he was there all along. He was there the whole time. That alone blessed me, to just see that God had us the whole time, already connected, already there. And so I'm just thankful to God. I'm thankful to God for how he's covered and he's kept. And I have vision for, for things now, but also things to come. Things that are happening in the process as well of happening right now, one being pure, and we working on this, but I'm thankful to God for how he is kept, and he is a keeper, and he is a redeemer, and he is a restorer, and he is a provider, and all that and so much more. And so many times we make him so small. We make him so small. And so even though I've been saved all my life, like, I am absolutely coming into deeper depths of relationship with God. I'm absolutely coming into deeper moments of just fellowship, constant, continuous fellowship and oneness with God, and learning what that's about. Because we can be in relationship from the outside and think we're having relationship and it not really be relationship. And so those are things I'm learning at this stage in life. And I've learned along the way, but I know that there's a deeper calling. There's a deeper depth of relationship and closeness. And I find myself for months now waking up wee hours in the morning. And so for a while I didn't understand it. But now that I understand it more, I get up, I roll over as much as I can. I get on my knees. Sometimes I'll walk completely into the other room and just get in a posture of prayer and just get in a posture of, God, I'm here, and just sit still and quiet to listen. And just to think that that's that little girl that had no sense of direction. That's that little girl that was like, God, what have I done with my life that I found myself 18, pregnant, engaged, broken up, just messed up, jacked up, cheated on, lied to, abandoned, manipulated, like all of these things. Like, God, how in the world did you get me out of all of that foolishness and confusion and untangle? It's kind of like almost, it makes me think of like those, when you have a yarn ball and it's all tangled and knotted up. Those things, like, you just almost get frustrated and just are like, okay, we just gonna get us a new yarn ball because there is no way we can get this thing untangled. But in God's infinite wisdom, he knew how to untangle every strand of what I had got myself in. And he's merciful. He's gracious. He's loving. And I'm just forever grateful to God for what he's done in my life. And I look forward to all of the things that are here, are in the works, and that are coming. But I just want to encourage someone and say, at this time, at this very moment, you have to set your face like flint. And you have to get such a focus on life, not just life physically and the outer trappings of things, but you have to get such a focus on life. Be open to where you messed up. Don't down yourself, don't bash yourself, but be open to where you messed up and be willing to do the work to correct it. Be willing to do the work to come out of it for real, to really come out of it, and allow yourself to go through the entire process. You may not understand it all, it may not all feel good, but allow yourself to go through the entire process. I was thinking of something earlier, and one thing I highly encourage is that you have a mentor, life coach, wife coach, all those things. I have had all those things through the years, and Lord knows, I would not be where I am today without it. You know, having that person that is rooting you along, that has the higher, scope of sight than you do, but also who is rooting you along when you don't feel like you can take another lap, who is in your corner for real, not jealous of you, not trying to get anything from you, but who truly loves God, is seeking God, and wants to get something to you and sees the big picture for your life. That's so important. And so I won't say always, but for a long time now, I've had mentors, life coaches. I've even had forgiveness coaches to dig those deep rooted things up and out once and for all. And knowing that forgiveness absolutely is a process, but you have to make up in your mind with anything. You have to make up in your mind. And so I just want to pose to you today. I was thinking of this earlier, and one of those coaches said to me one time, and that was me saying it from the sense of when others have done me wrong, saying, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. That was the line that she gave me. And today, I was just thinking of things, and that wording came to me, but then out of my mouth came, Father, forgive me, for I knew not what I was doing. And I know that that's for someone. I know that that's for someone, and that is a deep, true place of repentance. And that covers it all. Just to know that God's love for you is so deep. It's so deep. It's so real. You cannot comprehend it. So many times, right, we're trying to figure it out. We're trying to understand it. We're trying to make it make sense. Like, what if it doesn't make sense? What if you can't figure it out? Will you just trust and believe that there is a God who created the heavens and the earth and is for you and is with you every step of the way and will help you and has delivered you and will save you and has saved you? Like, will you just believe? Like, that is the biggest thing through life, is just making the choice to believe. And when your trust has been broken over and over and over again, it's trying to mess with your belief. And so that's something that I've had to come to terms with in my life. Those things came to try to break my trust, to try to break my belief and the purity of my heart. Tried to come and break the purity of who I was. And so I had to allow God to bring me back to a place of purity, keep me in a place of purity. And purity is not by our own works. It's not by anything that we have done or that we could do, but it's simply our trust in God. It's simply our trust in his finished work. And so that was my prayer and my statement today when I was just thinking back over life. And even lately, where I've just thought about different things. Yes, I was a single mom. All those things happened. Now I'm married, but I'm still finding things, okay? I'm still finding things. I'm still uncovering things. I'm still unearthing things. God's still processing in me. He's still like, okay, hold up. That ain't right. Fix it. And so today, that was my prayer. Like, God, forgive me. For I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what I was doing. And so I just want to pray with you today, but I also want to extend a prayer of salvation to anyone who is saying, okay, who is this? Who is this God? I keep hearing her talk about God this, God that, God this, God that. Like, I would love to introduce you to this God that I know will meet you wherever you are at. I've seen it happen so many times. He'll meet you where you're at. He'll meet you where you're at. He'll meet you where you're at. I had one point in time where I had messed up. And I was saved, believer, going to church, all that stuff. And I had messed up big, and I knew it. I knew it. And immediately it wasn't even like it was it wasn't even like, okay, I could do the sin and then, a little while. No, immediately I felt the conviction. Immediately I wept. Immediately I was like, God, forgive me. And the very next day I woke up, and I know it was nothing but the love of God. The very next day, I had 5 people that day that reached out to me. 5 people that knew nothing about what I had experienced, knew nothing about what I had done, and nothing about what I was going through. 5 people reached out to me. They covered the morning, they covered the afternoon, they covered the evening, and they covered the night. 5 people reached out to me, and those people prayed for me and with me. And I didn't go into detail or tell them anything that was going on. But by the Spirit of God, I know that they were divinely sent. Those people prayed with me. One person actually called me from Hawaii. Now, we got a time difference. They called me from Hawaii, prayed with me, sang over me. I actually fell asleep on the phone and woke up to them continuing to sing and pray over me. And that to me just spoke volumes, and it spoke to me the grace and the love of God over me, that I could do what seemed like the unforgivable sin, not say a word to anybody else, and He heard me. He heard me and sent 5 people. Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5 people to pour into me the very next day. All throughout the day, He covered me. And so I just believe that covering for you. And so I want to pray with you. One, for just your life. If you're already a believer and you're just saying, whew, all right, I was inspired, motivated by what you said. I'm seeking a deeper relationship with God. Or if you're just saying, look, hey, I don't even know what this is at all, but I'm interested. So I want to invite you, and I want to pray with you. God, Heavenly Father, I know, God, I know that you're real, and I know that you are faithful, and I know that you are able, and I know that you are consistent, and I know that you are constant, and I know that you love us. I know that you love us. I know that you love us, God. And so right now, Father, I just lift up, Father, this time that we've been here. I lift up, Father, these conversations and what will happen, what is to come. But I lift up this time right now, God. And I just pray, God, that anyone that this touches, Father, in any way, God, that if they are seeking, Father, rededication, Father, I pray right now, Father God, that you would just meet them right where they are. Minister to them as only I know that you can, Father. And I know, Father, if they are seeking, Father, salvation and they've never met you before, I pray that you just blow their minds, Father, that you blow their minds, God, and you make yourself real to them, God, even now, God. And all you have to do is say, Father, God, I believe in you. I believe that you are the Son of God. I confess my sins. I confess that I haven't lived right. I confess I haven't done it all right. Some things I don't even know, but I'm bringing it to you. I'm laying it before you. I receive you as my Lord and Savior. I receive you as the one true living God, and I want you in my life. I want you in my life, and I ask you to come into my heart, save me, heal me, cleanse me, and make me whole. I want relationship with you, God, and I ask you, I believe you for a clean slate, and I receive your salvation by faith in Jesus' name. And so if you have done that and you have accepted God and you have repented of your sins, and you may not know everything, you may not know everything that you have ever done to sin, it's okay. There's things that I'm still figuring out just to this day. But if you have done that, I just want to encourage you and welcome you and just believe that you're going to have an amazing walk with God. Don't allow yourself to in any way be fooled that an amazing walk with God means everything's gonna always be chippy cheery, because in relationship, we know with any relationship, it's not always what we necessarily want it to be. That's part of relationship. Relationship is getting to know who God is, understanding his ways, getting into his word, taking on his mind. When you have that friend that you're close with, you can finish each other's sentence. And God wants the same with us, that we take on his mind so much that he can say this, have this thought, and we're just catching it. And it's just flowing, and it's not a struggle, and it's not a strain. And so I just want to encourage you. And if you have been encouraged by this, feel free to reach out to me. Feel free to leave comments and I'll reach back out to you. Feel free to send a message. Feel free to get in touch. But I just hope that this time has encouraged you, sharing a little bit about me and who I am. And of course, it's been a long time, but it wasn't the full scope, just kind of bits and pointers. But as we have other episodes, I'll definitely be sharing other points and things about who I am and what God has given me to do in the way of purity. All right, I love you and take care. God bless.